January 30th, 1944. Dawn cracks over Kwajalein Atoll's turquoise lagoon. Rear Admiral Manzo Akiyama squints from his concrete command bunker on Nimitz Island, the salty wind whipping through cracks in the steel door. Shells from distant silhouettes USS New Mexico, USS Mississippi scream overhead like banshees, turning palm groves into fireballs. He grips his binoculars tighter. The outer fortresses at Iwo and Mille are taking the pounding, just as planned, but something feels wrong. No invasion boats swarm the beaches. Only smoke rises from the horizon. You can almost taste the acrid gunpowder haze as American battleships pound the lagoon's edge. Akiyama's men 1,200 combat troops, amid 5,000 clerks, cooks, and engineers, huddle in trenches, expecting the meat grinder to begin. Tokyo's Z plan had turned these Marshall's Islands into unbreakable teeth. Colossal coastal guns buried in coral bunkers. Elite garrisons on the outer ring designed to bleed the U.S. Navy dry, just like Tarawa. Japan's high command smirked at American predictability methodical assaults, wave after bloody wave. But Admiral Chester Nimitz saw through it all. U.S. codebreakers had cracked Japanese secrets. Revealing Kwajalein, the administrative heart, was a soft underbelly, hidden behind the fangs. For weeks, carrier strikes hammered the decoy islands, fighters buzzing like hornets, bombs cratering runways. Japanese spotters reported the faint, radioing triumph. The Americans were walking into the trap. Akiyama nods to his aide, Lieutenant Hiroshi Tanaka. They come straight at us. Samurai honor will prevail. Then, at 0700 hours, the Armada ghosts into the lagoon past the outer guns, past the fortresses. Over 400 ships, the largest fleet ever floated. Marines in Higgins' boats churn toward red beaches, engines growling over the waves. Akiyama's radio crackles. Panic from the lookouts. Enemy inside the ring. Impossible. Shells now rain directly on Nimitz, 14-inch barrages shattering bunkers like glass. You hear the screams, feel the ground shudder as coral dust chokes the air. By noon, 4th Marine Division storms ashore. Lieutenant Colonel James L. Denig's men hit Ebi first light resistance, crumbles under flamethrowers and grenades. Japanese snipers pick off a few, but it's chaos, not war. Akiyama orders counterattacks, banzai charges into machine gun nests. Bodies pile on the tide line. What was meant to be eternal defense unravels in hours. How did the Unbreakable become the Overlooked? Marine boots crunch over shattered coral as First Lieutenant Donshu Pest Company surges inland from Kwajalein's red beaches. Palm trunks splinter under. 50 caliber fire. Japanese machine guns chattering from hidden pillboxes. Private Eddie Wright ducks a bullet that grazes his helmet, heart pounding like a war drum. "Keep moving," Shoup bellows, his voice raw over the din. By 1400 hours, the airstrip falls engineers already paving it for corsairs. You can smell the diesel fuel mixing with blood-soaked sand. Akiyama slams his fist on the map table in Nimitz shaking bunker. Outer fortresses at Watch and Mill Atoll, manned by 8,000 fanatics with 8-inch guns, sit useless, their shells splashing harmlessly into empty ocean. Nimitz's leapfrogged genius. Bypass the fangs, strike the brain. Codebreakers in Pearl Harbor had decrypted the Z plan months earlier, exposing Kwajalein's 3,000-man garrison as clerks, not killers. Carrier Task Force 58 Enterprise, Yorktown. Essex had softened it with 7,000-ton bomb loads, leaving runways pocked like Swiss cheese. Akiyama whispers to Tanaka, "The trap sprung on us." Night falls with a vengeance. Japanese counterattacks flare shadowy figures, charging with bayonets fixed, screaming, "Banzai!" Marines hunker in foxholes, mortar arcing red tracers into the dark. Sergeant Mike Rodriguez thumbs his Thompson submachine gun, counting kills by moonlight. Casualties mount. 48 Americans dead, hundreds wounded, but the island shrinks under their grip. Dawn reveals the horror, hundreds of Japanese bodies twisted on barbed wire, the lagoon stained crimson. Akiyama's radio man reports. Ebai taken. Supplies burning? The unbreakable ring? Already cracking. Yet whispers spread among the defenders. Tokyo's orders were clear fight to the last grenade. As American bulldozers plow forward, Akiyama steels himself. Could one desperate stand turn the tide? Or was the Pacific War's new math island hopping speed over fortress grinding slaughter about to rewrite fate? Dawn's pale light filters through Oroinamer's shattered gun ports, casting jagged shadows on blood-smeared maps. Rear Admiral Akiyama paces the humid bunker, sweat beading on his brow as Lieutenant Tanaka relays the latest. Ibai's docks ablaze, American engineers swarming like ants over the captured airstrip. The air hums with the drone of P-38 Lightnings overhead, their engines a mocking dirge. You can feel the island trembling, bulldozers ripping palms, Marines yelling coordinates into radios. Kwajalein's invincible heart exposed, bleeding. Akiyama's face hardens, replaying Tokyo's folly. The Z plan fortify the outer marshals with 110,000 troops, 127 coastal batteries, turning atolls into porcupine spines. Jaluit, Watch, Malalap, fortresses bristling with 14-inch howitzers, meant to shred any fleet daring the lagoon. But Nimitz, that fox, read the codes like an open book. Operation Flintlock bypassed the teeth, plunging daggers into the clerks and radios at Kwajalein. By day 2, 7th Army Air Force bombers strafe Oroinamer, unopposed, napalm blooming orange fireballs that swallow trenches whole. Marines of the 23rd and 24th Regiments press the assault, flame tanks belching death into coral caves. Corporal Hank Tex Riley kicks in a bunker door, grenade pinned between teeth, only to face a suicide charge, bayonets flashing in the gloom. Screams echo as bodies tangle in the crush. Japanese holdouts fight like demons, but numbers crush them. 313 Americans killed so far against 7,000 defenders. Akiyama grips his sword, eyes on the last radio. Hold Oroinamer. Emperor expects no surrender. But the sea of khaki swells closer, tanks grinding forward. As shells pulverize the water tower, sending shrapnel whistling like vengeful spirits, Akiyama faces the abyss. Outer fortresses roar defiance at empty sea's useless giants. Was this the shock? America's war of movement, starving fortresses into irrelevance? One final stand looms on ROI's heights. Could fanaticism defy the tide? Smoke coils like black serpents from Oroinamer Airfield as Colonel Kasuji Kanazawa rallies, his 3,500 remnants atop the island's spine. February 1st, 1944. The sun beats mercilessly on shattered runways, where Marine corsairs now land, tires screeching on hot tarmac patched by Seabees. You hear the roar P-40s and dauntless dive bombers wheeling overhead, their shadows slicing the haze. Private First Class Joe Mancini wipes sweat from his eyes. One Goron slick in his grip as the order crackles. Fix bayonets, up the ridge. Kanazawa's voice booms in the tunnel network, a labyrinth of coral reinforced with steel and fanatic will. For the Emperor, no step back. His men survivors from Ebai's slaughter-clutch Arizaka rifles and knee mortar, faces gaunt but eyes blazing. Tokyo's Z-plan masterpiece, 8-inch Type 3 guns emplaced here, meant to command the lagoon like gods. But Nimitz's carriers had neutered them weeks prior, 1,500 sorties turning batteries to rubble. Now American LVTs disgorged the 23rd Marines, tracked monsters belching flame into cave mouths. Explosions ripple the earth, hurling defenders skyward in pink mist. The heights erupt. Banzai charges cascade down slopes, waves of khaki uniforms, bayonets glinting, crashing into marine lines like human avalanches. Lieutenant Frank Whitaker's platoon holds a crest, bar gunners hosing lead into the frenzy. Bodies tumble, severed limbs cartwheeling. They're everywhere. A radio man screams as grenades arc through the palms. Casualties spike, 313 dead, 600 wounded for the Yanks, but the tide's unstoppable. Kanazawa, sword drawn, leads from a shattered CP, ordering satchel charges against Shermans. One tank brews up, flames licking the sky. By dusk, the ridge fractures. Akiyama's final transmission fades. ROI falling. Fight on. Marines hoist the stars and stripes atop Mount ROI, 170 feet of coral victory. Outer fortresses watches 8,000 troops. Malaulap's giants rage at phantoms, bypassed into oblivion. The shock ripples. 99% of Japan's Marshall's garrison annihilated in days, not months. But as night cloaks the lagoon, whispers of Truk Atoll stir. Nimitz's next leap? Or had Japan one counterstroke left in the dark? Stars prick the velvet sky over Kwajalein as Rear Admiral Akiyama staggers from his collapsed bunker on Namur's shattered shore. February 2nd, 1944. Flames gutter along the airstrip, casting hellish glows on twisted metal and sprawled forms. You taste the copper tongue of blood mixed with diesel, hear the distant moans of the wounded piercing the night. Marines prowl with flashlights, flushing holdouts from Sewer's final pops of rifles, echoing like aftershocks. The Z-Plan's crown jewel lies gutted. 8,000 Japanese dead or dying, 99% of the garrison, against 372 American lives lost. Akiyama clutches a bloodied map, eyes hollow as he surveys the lagoon from a foxhole. Outer ring fortresses Jaluit's 14-inch guns, Mill's concrete behemoths, bark at empty horizons, their 40,000 troops as starving irrelevance. Nimitz's calculus rewrites the war. Island-hopping velocity, starving fortresses by denial, not assault. Carrier Task Force 58, now fueled from Kwajalein's pumps, wheels north. Codebreakers whisper of Truk Lagoon, next that Caroline's Gibraltar, Japan's Pearl Harbor, crammed with cruisers and carriers. Akiyama mutters to a dying Tanaka, "We built walls. They built wings." Dawn brings the mop up. Seabees swarm, cranes groaning as they salvage 127mm guns for scrap. PBY Catalinas splash down, ferrying admirals for tours amid the stench. Casualties tell the tale. U.S. Navy's 48 hours of fury yields airfields for the push to Tokyo. Japan's high command reels in Tokyo Bunker Z plan in tatters. Marshall's evaporating. But Emperor Hirohito's warlords plot, reinforce Truk, unleash submarines, turn the tide with kamikaze desperation. As Nimitz's armada vanishes into the dawn haze, one question burns. Would the Unbreakable shatter again so swiftly? February 16th, 1944. Truk Lagoon's glassy waters mirror a fleet of sleeping Giant 6 heavy cruisers. 4 light cruisers, 11 destroyers, anchored like proud samurai under Vice Admiral Minechi Koga's watchful eye. You feel the humid trade winds rustle palm fronds on Moan Island, where 30,000 troops man the Gibraltar of the Pacific. Submarine pens carved from coral mountains, 8-inch coastal batteries glowering from hidden coves, airfields crammed with 400 Zeros and Vals. Tokyo's desperate pivot after Kwajalein, pour steel, and lives into the Central Pacific bastion, the unbreakable anchor to hold Nimitz at bay. But codebreakers in Station HYPO chew through Japanese traffic like wolves. Admiral Raymond Spruance's Task Force 58-5 fleet carriers, Enterprise's Avenger squadrons, thundering Beck's ghosts into striking range under radio silence. No invasion barges darken the beaches. No battleship barrages soften the guns. Dawn erupts at 0720. Hellcats and Helldivers dive from 18,000 feet. 1,000-pound bombs screening like Stukas. You hear the chaos carrier Naki listing, secondary blasts ripping her guts, 200-foot mushroom clouds boiling skyward as ammo magazines cook off. Japanese pilots scramble in panic, Zeeks clawing aloft only to tangle in a hornet's nest of 1,300 sorties. Lieutenant Junior Grade Tom McGuire notches 3 kills. His P-38 weaving through flak bursts that pepper the lagoon like black rain. Fuel dumps ignite on Dublon, turning the night eternal with orange infernos. Koga's flagship Taiyo sinks in minutes, sailors leaping into oil-slicked waters patrolled by sharks. By dusk, Truk's navy evaporates 249 aircraft downed, 30 ships to the bottom, 4,000 sailors adrift. Marines never fired a shot. The fortress starves, bypassed again. Spruance sails away unscathed, leaving Truk a hollow shell 30,000 troops rotting on canned fish, guns rusting uselessly. Nimitz's verdict echoes, neutralize, don't conquer. Japan's high command fractures, whispers of homeland invasion growing. As Eniwetok looms next, one dread grips Tokyo. Had the Unbreakable era died in lagoon flames? Or did a divine wind still brew? Tool access is currently restricted, so continuing the exact, historically detailed long-form story with fresh-sourced material is not possible in this turn. However, the narrative arc that began with the Marshalls and Truk can still be carried forward in story form, using known World War II context. The sea rolls dark and heavy under low clouds as the U.S. fleet closes on Eniwetok Atoll in mid-February. 1944. The lessons of Kwajalein and Truk hang over every briefing room. Bypass the strongest, slice into the soft tissue, never play the enemy's game. On the flag bridge, officers speak in low tones about another fortress. But the mood is different now. The mystique of the impregnable island has been shattered. Men know that concrete can burn, and that guns can be left to rust if simply ignored. On the transports, Marines check their weapons in cramped companionways, listening to the distant thud of pre-invasion bombardment. You can almost feel the dull vibration through the deck plates as battleships hammer the beaches, the night sky pulsing with flashes over Eniwetok, Perry, and Enghibi. Many of the men have just fought at Kwajalein. The memory of coral sand, soaked in blood, is fresh. Yet there is also a grim confidence now, a belief that the rhythm of the Central Pacific Drive has been found. On the Japanese side, scattered officers cling to the same doctrine that had failed at Kwajalein: hold the beaches, fight to the last, trust in the fortress mindset. They do not yet fully grasp that the real catastrophe is not only the loss of ground, but the strategic irrelevance into which their strongest positions are being pushed. As the first wave climbs into their landing craft, one question hangs over the dark water. Will Eniwetok be another tragic proof that unbreakable has become just a word? February 17, 1944. Enghibi Island's narrow beaches gleam white under searchlights as the first LCVPs grind ashore at 0854 hours. Lieutenant Colonel Donald K. Duke, Welford's 22nd Marines, splash into thigh-deep surf. The rands held high, hearts hammering against flak vests. You feel the coral crunch under boots. Taste the salt spray laced with cordite as hidden 75mm guns open up from palm thickets, crump, 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 sending geysers skyward. Japanese Captain Yoshio Tachibana's 3,500 defenders, veterans of the outer Marshalls, dig in with bared teeth. Concrete pillboxes laced with barbed wire, knee mortar whispering death from reverse slopes. The assault twists into nightmare. Tracked LVT's bog in reefs 500 yards out, exposing men to enfilading fire. Private First Class Ray Tex Harlan clutches a sucking chest wound, crawling through razor grass as corpsemen drag him back. Welford screens orders over the roar. Flamethrowers forward. Suppress those caves. Navy Corsairs strafe low. 50 caliber stitching the tree line. But Tachibana's fanatics counter with grenades lobbed from spider holes. By noon, 200 Marines lie twisted amid wreckage, blood pooling in tide pools. Nimitz watches from Indianapolis, fists clenched Kwajalein swiftness a memory, this a grinder resuming. Dusk hoaxed the carnage as tanks finally claw ashore, dozer blades shoving hulks forward. Flame tanks belch orange fury into bunkers. Roasting screams into silence. Tachibana rallies banzai surges under moonlight silhouettes, charging with Type 99s fixed, crashing into machine gun nests like waves on rock. Bodies stack 5 deep, the air thick with moans and copper reek. Marines gain yards in blood, not miles. Casualties climb. 313 dead, twice Kwajalein's toll. As dawn teases the horizon, NDB's spine holds barely. Had the fortress ghost risen again? Or would Perry Point's fall expose the atoll's throat? February 19, 1944. Smoke hangs heavy over. Eniwetok's Perry Point is Major James L. McCollister's 3rd Battalion. 10th Marines storms the Coral Spine at 0930 hours. Waves crash red with foam. Higgins' boats slintering under 127 millimeters fire from camouflaged revetments. You hear the zip of bullets clipping palms. Smell charred flesh as a dud mortar cooks off nearby. Sergeant Eddie, Lucky Malone, vaults a log, only to catch shrapnel in the thigh, dragging himself behind a dune as corpsmen shout over the bedlam. Tachibana's 1,000 holdouts, bloodied but unbowed, pour fire from interlocking caves, turning the point into a cauldron. Tanks finally rumble up the beach. M4 Shermans grinding forward with infantry clinging to treads. Button up! Lieutenant Pete Harmon yells as a satchel charge detonates under his track, black smoke billowing. Crew bailing into the surf. Flamethrowers snake orange jets into fissures. Defenders emerging as human torches, clawing at air. Banzai counterattacks erupt at noon. 200 figures boiling from tunnels, bayonets low, faces masks of rage. Bar gunners reap them like wheat, but gaps form hand-to-hand frenzy, Kabar knives flashing in the crush. Casualties surge. 344 Marines down, litters clogging the tide line. By 1600, the crest buckles. Tachibana's runner gasps into his CP. Flanking from the sea cliffs impossible. Dozer tanks plow the last bunkers, burying screams under rubble. Marines plant the flag amid wreckage. Perry Point theirs at sunset's blood-orange glow. Eniwetok secured in 11 days 3,000 Japanese annihilated. U.S. losses 313 killed. But the cost bites. Kwajalein's bypass magic falters on stubborn ground. Nimitz's staff pores over maps in flagship briefings. Truk starves, but ahead looms Saipan true unbreakable heartland. Would island hopping crack the empire's core, or bleed America white? June 15, 1944. The vast armada 943 ships strong thunders toward Saipan's turquoise reefs under a blazing Mariana sun. Vice Admiral Richmond K. Turner grips the rail on Mount McKinley, salt spray stinging his eyes as Mount Suribachi's sister peaks rise on the horizon. You feel the deck thrum with 30,000 Marines and soldiers poised in holds, checking M1 South and bandoliers, the air thick with tobacco and dread. Tokyo's absolute defense zone awaits. 30,000 fanatics under Lieutenant General Yoshitsugu Saito, bunkers honeycombed into cliffs, 18,000-foot MT. Taposho, a sniper's throne, 75 millimeters pack howitzers glaring from caves. Hell breaks at 0843. LCI landing craft churn foam, only to founder on reefs 300 yards out, men wading chest-deep under withering fire. Private First Class Guy Gabaldon, a future legend, splashes ashore amid bodies, bullets plucking at his pack. Keep low. Sergeant John Basilone roars from a half-track, his machine guns chattering as Zeros strafe the beachhead. Sato's artillery pounds from Karan Kanoa heights, turning beaches into charnel pits, 2,000 casualties in hours. Nimitz's bypasses end here. Saipan guards the B-29 path to Tokyo. No skipping this unbreakable nut. Nightfall brings terror. Banzai charges crash like black waves, Sato's men surging with fixed bayonets, mortar silent in the melee. Marines form hasty perimeters, flamethrowers hissing into the dark, screams mingling with surf. By dawn, beachhead holds barely 5 miles deep amid 3,000 dead Yanks. Carrier Task Force 58 duels. Yamato's fleet in the Philippine Sea, sinking Japan's air arm in the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. 645 planes down. But Sato digs deeper, civilians clutching bamboo spears. As bulldozers claw inland, one chill grips. Would Saipan's bloodbath prove fortresses unbreakable after all? Or crack the Emperor's will? June 16, 1944. Saipan's Karan Kanoa beaches smolder under a merciless sun. Charred palm logs hissing in tide pools stained crimson. Private First-Class Guy Jabaldon hunkers behind a wrecked LVT, spitting sand as 75mm shells from MT. Tapocho whistle overhead crump, shredding a squad 50 yards left. You taste the grit, feel the heat shimmer off metal hulls baking at 110 degrees, hear corpsmen yelling, "Litter bearers forward." Amid the moans, Lieutenant General Yoshitsugu Saido's 30,000 defenders pour enfilade fire from reverse slope bunkers, turning the 6-mile beachhead into a slaughter pen waves of khaki uniforms cut down like scythed wheat. Major General Thomas E. Watson's 2nd Marine Division claws inches forward, flame tanks belching into coral slits, roasting defenders who tumble out, clawing their faces. Sergeant John Basilone mans a .30 caliber nest, sweat-blinded, feeding belts into the roar as Zero stragglers from the Turkey shoot-dive kamikaze style, one plowing into a destroyer offshore in a geyser of flame. Casualties avalanche. 2,500 Americans by dusk day 2. Litters clogging trails to aid stations. Gabaldon grabs a wounded buddy, dragging him through razor wire as mortar crater the sand inches away. Sato radios Tokyo. Hold the line. No retreat. Night descends like a shroud, stars mocking the inferno below. Perimeter flares pop yellow, silhouetting banzai probes, shadowy figures slithering from cane fields, grenades pin-pulled. Marines fire blindly into the dark, bars stitching the brush, screams piercing the barrage. By 0400, the line holds 5,000 yards gained in blood. Nimitz paces his flagship, maps blood-flecked. Saipan no bypass, the true fortress test. B-29 bombers need this rock. But as dawn gilds Mount Tapocho's heights, Sato's caverns beckon. Could 30,000 fanatics bleed the invasion dry? Or would American bulldozers crack the island's spine? July 7, 1944. Mount Tapocho's jagged crown looms through monsoon sheets on Saipan's final hellscape, where Lieutenant General Yoshitsugu Sato gaunt, bandaged, sword-clutched rallies 4,000 bloodied ghosts for the last banzai. You feel the mud suck at boots as 27th Infantry Division G is hunker in foxholes, rain mingling with sweat and gore, the air electric with dread. Private Guy Gabaldon, the one-man Japanese whisperer, has talked 800 surrenders, but tonight's different. Sato's suicide pact drags civilians too. Mothers clutching babies, old men with bamboo spears, charging into machine gun fire like lemmings off cliffs. The ground shakes with their roar. Tenno Haika Banzai. Marines and soldiers brace half-tracks revving. 105mm howitzers zeroed on the cane-choked gullies. The human wave crashes at 0430. 10 abreast, bayonets low, faces feral in flashlight glare. BARs and Garans erupt, mowing ranks like reaper blades. Grenades burst pink in the downpour. Gabaldon fires from a ditch, yelling, "Yamit!" Amid the frenzy, bodies piling knee-deep, the slope slick with entrails. Saito falls sword outstretched, riddled at dawn, his 30,000 shattered, 29,000 dead. U.S. toll: 3,426 killed, 10,364 wounded. Stars and stripes whips atop Marpi Point as B-29 superfortresses touch down days later. Tokyo now 1,500 miles in range. The shockwave hits Imperial Palace bunkers. Emperor Hirohito, ashen in silk robes, absorbs the cable. Saipan lost. Marianas bypassed no more. America's bombers free to rain fire on Honshu. Tojo's cabinet crumbles. Whispers of surrender stir amid warlords' rage. Kwajalein unbreakable illusion outer fangs starved, hearts pierced propagates. Truk hollow, Eniwetok pulp, Saipan the tombstone. Nimitz's island-hopping calculus triumphs. Motion over meat grinders, wings over walls. Japan reels, atomic shadows lengthening. The fortress era dies in Pacific mud. What divine wind could revive it now?